This is why elite wrestlers fail in MMA, but Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev dominate everyone. Gable Stevenson's main point is that Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev don't wrestle like traditional freestyle or NCAA wrestlers once they're inside cage. Instead of shooting explosive double legs in open space, they prioritize position, balance, and control. They use the cage as a weapon, tripping legs, pinning hips, and forcing opponents to carry their weight before even attempting takedowns. This drains energy and removes scrambling opportunities. When they do shoot, it's usually off the cage or after striking exchanges, making their entries harder to read and defend. Another key difference is shot selection and patience. Islam and Khamzat don't force takedowns just to score. If a shot isn't clean, they transition immediately, switching to body locks, ankle picks, or clinch control instead of resetting and wasting energy. They're also comfortable in dangerous positions. If caught in a guillotine or front headlock, they don't panic or abandon the takedown. They know how to adjust angles, keep posture, and continue advancing position, which turns submission threats into control opportunities. Most importantly, their wrestling is tied directly to striking. Once opponents start obsessing over stopping takedowns, their hands become more effective. This constant threat loop, wrestling to open striking, striking to open wrestling, is what makes their MMA wrestling so dominant and nearly impossible to shut down. Gable Stevenson highlights that Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev don't just use wrestling to score takedowns. They use it to erase their opponent's offense completely. Their goal isn't flashy ground and pound every second, but suffocating control. Once the fight hits the mat, both fighters focus on hip pressure, chest-to-chest control, and smart positioning. They trap legs, isolate arms, and constantly force opponents to defend instead of attack. This makes even elite strikers and grapplers look helpless for long stretches. The numbers tell the story. Chimaev logged over 21 minutes of control time against Dricus Du Plessis to win the middleweight title, barely allowing the champion any chance to build momentum. Islam followed the same blueprint at welterweight, using 19 minutes of control to neutralize Jack Della Maddalena and dominate the scorecards. What makes this control so effective is that it's low risk, high reward. They don't chase submissions recklessly. Instead, they stay heavy, methodical, and disciplined, winning rounds decisively while slowly breaking their opponent's will. By the time fighters escape, they're exhausted, hesitant, and mentally defeated. That's why Stevenson sees control time not just as a statistic, but as the real championship weapon in modern MMA. If you enjoy real breakdowns like this and daily UFC updates, make sure you subscribe to MMA Thread right now. Gable Stevenson points out that many elite American wrestlers enter MMA with world-class credentials, but fail to fully adjust their mindset and mechanics to the sport. They often rely on what worked in folk style or freestyle, without accounting for the unique dangers of MMA. One major issue is shot selection. Traditional wrestlers shoot low and explosively in open space, which in MMA exposes them to uppercuts, knees, and guillotines. When those shots get stuffed or punished, they don't always have a clear secondary plan. Another weakness is limited cage awareness. MMA wrestling happens against the fence far more than in the center. Fighters like Islam and Khamzat thrive there, using foot sweeps, body locks, and pressure, while many American wrestlers instinctively disengage instead of grinding. Submission defense is also a critical gap. Stevenson notes that when American wrestlers get caught in guillotines or front headlocks, they often abandon the takedown completely. In contrast, Islam and Khamzat know how to adjust head position, change angles, and continue advancing without panicking. Finally, many wrestlers fail to blend striking with wrestling. Without a credible striking threat, opponents can focus entirely on defending takedowns. That's why Stevenson believes adapting wrestling into a true MMA system, rather than forcing pure wrestling, is a key difference at the championship level. Gable Stevenson believed the path to UFC dominance is already proven, and it's the same one Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev are using. Rather than becoming just a wrestler in MMA, he's focused on becoming a complete MMA pressure fighter. The foundation is still wrestling, but the goal is to make opponents fear it constantly. Once fighters start lowering their stance, backing toward the cage, and overreacting to level changes, striking openings appear. That's when the hands come into play. something Stevenson has already started to showcase with multiple first-round knockouts. Stevenson is intentionally working on patience, timing, and cage control, not rushing takedowns just to prove dominance. He wants to drain opponents first, force mistakes, and then choose whether to wrestle or strike, exactly how Islam and Khamzat dictate fights. His recent 98-second, 25-second, and 15-second wins show that he's no longer relying solely on his Olympic pedigree. He's learning how to weaponize fear, turning his wrestling reputation into a psychological advantage before any physical exchange even happens. By following this blueprint, Stevenson isn't just preparing to enter the UFC. He's preparing to arrive as a problem for the entire heavyweight division. Subscribe to MMA Thread for daily UFC news, fight breakdowns, and real MMA insights you won't hear anywhere else.